Hello and welcome back. Today we are going to be doing a starting steps video here as Krakow in patch 1.7, both exploring and showcasing some of the new features that are going to really change this run a lot. This has been a kind of difficult run, and we are going to have the end goal of getting the achievement Not Yet Lost, which will involve us forming Poland-Lithuania and expanding the Commonwealth journal entry. Now before, it was kind of a lot of re-rolling and a lot of trying to get lucky, in particular getting the right supports from Prussia and Russia, finding opportune times for wars. This is how it used to work in 1.6. In 1.7, there's a more streamlined sort of way of trying to get independence from Austria, but it's also in some sense more restrictive, and that's going to be focused on kind of two features, at least for us at the beginning, which the first is going to be the Liberty Desire mechanic. Now, in order to declare independence or to ask to raise our autonomy, we need to gain Liberty Desire, and the way we do it is by having poor relations, having high prestige, and having them be economically dependent on us. And so we are going to have to try and raise this Liberty Desire factor. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come in and we are going to damage relations with Austria. Now they are going to probably increase relations with us, but this is going to be a little bit difficult. We could also, if they just deny this sort of thing, we could get increased Liberty Desires. So knowing that they will deny this, we will make use of this immediately, and we will also start damaging relations. But this is the first thing, is we have to find different ways to increase our Liberty Desire and be a little bit proactive about this sort of thing, because we cannot ask for independence through the normal subject interactions anymore. If we come and take a look here, and we scroll down to the diplomatic demands, we will see in order to ask for independence, there are new requirements. We have to not be able to become a more autonomous subject type, and we have to have been denied increased autonomy with the last 5 years, or we need at least 90 Liberty Desire. So we are going to need these things. But in 1.7, we have a little bit more in terms of tools, in that we have new diplomatic actions, in that we can ask people to support our independence. And so what we're going to be doing in terms of winning the war against Austria, I think this will be more consistent, but getting to the point where you can declare on Austria is going to be a little bit more difficult. We can see that several people will support us. In theory, maybe you want to re-roll until Russia has a negative attitude at game start towards Austria. This is probably the strongest way to go about things, but we're just going to kind of not look to do a hyper reroll, hyper optimized run, and instead explore the mechanics and have fun playing with some of the 1.7 stuff. And so what we're going to do at the very opener here is we're going to improve relations with Prussia, as they are always rival to Austria at game start, and they are going to be the most likely to be able to support us. So that's the two things. We have to keep our Liberty Desire high, and we're going to be trying to diplo around in order to get 2 GPs to support our independence, so that when we go for independence, we can grab a whole bunch of stuff, and hopefully this will be a little bit easier on us. The second thing that's going to be really distinct about this Prussia start is, obviously we start with a really small economy, and building up is going to be hard, and there's a few things that we're going to have to keep an eye on. This is true for kind of all single state starts, but you can see we only have 4 infrastructure available, so as far as technology goes, we are rushing railways because we are going to need this. We are also having a single state, which actually makes decrees super useful, and so we're going to use encourage manufacturing, we're going to use greener grass, we're going to use road maintenance, and we are also going to use promote social mobility, because when you only have a single state, this makes the decree apply to literally your entire nation. Krakow also does have this interesting condition, which is, despite being really small, you can see we're losing money, and a big reason for that is they start with a university. This is kind of a historic thing. We're of course going to turn the PM up, but we're going to keep this university at least for the very opener, because it does something kind of funny with our clout, in that the Intelligentsia will be insanely strong. We actually high roll here to get land reformer, which is going to be nice, which is going to allow us to pass homesteading a little bit earlier. There does seem to be a distinct difference between tenant farmers and homesteading now, in that peasants cannot migrate internally within your nation if you're on tenant farmers, so you are going to want to move to homesteading, even if you kind of don't like how it affects the clout, but we are going to side the Intelligentsia in, and the big thing that we want to pass on an immediate basis is we want to get to the point where we want to get off this national supremacy. We're going to go for racial segregation, and the reason being is we have, in terms of population, 224,000. We're going to need a lot more pops, or we're just going to run out of pops basically immediately. And so we want to be able to siphon off pops from Austria, but if we take a look at our accepted cultures, it's Polish, and so we would prefer to be able to siphon off every kind of Germanic pop off of Austria, and so we're going to switch right away, and the remainder of our authority we're just going to float. In terms of what we're doing here, we are going to focus a little bit on manufacturing more, because we have an encouraged manufacturing decree, and eventually we'll run out of resources, but the overall economic strategy will be just to build. We're just going to use the 10 construction initially, because you don't have to pay for any construction goods if you stay on it, and instead what our money is going to right now is the university. I think once we get some laws in place, though, we might look to delete that university, but for now, the Intelligentsia being really strong is going to be helpful. Austria, of course, denies our request for market control, which is going to further hurt relations with Austria, which is perfect, because this is what we want over the long term. We see we now have cold in terms of the threshold, which I imagine is going to give more liberty desire than the other one. Nope, we're still getting plus 10 from positive relations, but you can see on a weekly basis, it's going to decrease by 2.44, so it's going to be quite a bit of ecoing up. So I think that we're going to be trapped in a relationship with Austria for longer than you would be on 1.6 as a result of this. So we're getting cozy with our plan to build up tall, although we'll see what happens as we start kind of exporting a ton of manufacturing stuff into their market. So unfortunately, Austria is now boosting our relations, and so eventually our damage relation is going to get overcome because they have the subject interaction. We could see, take a look at how relations... Oh, wait, what happened to our damage relations bit? Okay. I'm not sure why that went away for a moment, but they will slowly overcome it because they're getting +3 from the minus, or the improved relations. We're getting -3, but the puppet relationship is going to slowly improve our relations. Hopefully, we can just repeatedly ask them to give us market control, and by being able to do this, we can keep the relations low. But also, they came in and they started to improve our legitimacy. You can see for contested government, they are now supporting our regime, which is going to be kind of a mixed bag for us. It's going to be good for us, at least here at the beginning, where our liberty desire is going to tank either way, but in the long term, this support regime might make it harder to break free. It seems like a relatively small modifier, though, in terms of how it is affecting the diplomacy, and so this seems to be, we could see 0.2, which doesn't seem that big, but I guess it's more than overcoming the negative relations, and so we'll see how we can shift this over here. Right now, we have the important dependence on their market, mainly from the difference in our GDP, which is not something we can overcome, but the unfulfilled Krakow pop needs satisfied by Austria, this we can overcome. So we're going to, after we build up a little bit of tools, we're going to come in here and we're going to build some consumer goods as well, hoping to kind of round out our needs and create an economy that if we were separated from them, we would be okay. Now, we have a little bit of a problem here. Is that once we finish this furniture manufactory, we're actually going to be having some infrastructure problems. And so what we're going to be doing after we finish this, and maybe we're actually even supposed to, we will be over if we finish the furniture manufactory. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to juggle buildings, which we'll show how to do in just a sec. All right, so we just passed racial segregation. We are still on migration controls, but now we should be allowing more pops into our country, so let's just take a quick look here. Currently, I don't think we are getting some weekly migration, but if we let it wait a tick, we'll see if we can get just a little bit more, because we now accept a couple more of these pops, including South German, which I don't think we accepted before, and Ukrainian, although I don't know how many Ukrainians there are in East Galicia. Probably not too many, but it looks like we're getting a few pops, but that's okay. Also very important, now that we're on racial segregation, we don't discriminate against some exiled agitators, and we know that we want to, in particular, pass homesteading at some point. So we're just going to invite this boyo. He's going to start a movement for homesteading, and that's going to be a super easy pass that's also going to help to decrease radicals, and so we're going to enact it with a 70% chance. And I think that we could get this through the landowners who are, kind of collapsing in power, although they will be big mad. Even if they leave government now, though, we'll still be legitimate enough to keep passing, and even if we weren't, because we have the presence of a movement, we would still be able to continue passing, but they'll be mad and they'll huff and puff and, yeah, do the landowner thing. So we actually get a little bit lucky, but we didn't notice it right away in that we are natural spreading mech tools. This is probably actually optimal to re-roll until you are natural spreading either Atmo or mech tools, and then research the other one. That way you get a faster railway, but we'll just switch to atmospheric engine. We'll get mech tools pretty soon here, and we'll be getting railways, you know, in a little bit. So we started making a little bit of money from some consumption taxes after pulling back the authority. So what we're going to do is we're going to reduce taxes. Normally you'd kind of want to increase taxes, but two things. High taxes have been nerfed because they give you more radicals and more legitimacy. Pretty sure on the more radicals. I'm not 100% sure that it's plus 100, but I think it's plus 50 on 1.6. So 1.7 relatively is going to hurt quite a bit more. But also because we can't really add a marginal construction sector with this extra money, and so we would rather get approval and get bonuses from our guys. And also what we were talking about with the juggling thing is as we kind of get close to finishing this furniture manufactory, what we're going to do is we're actually going to not finish it. As soon as we finish it, it's going to cost us a lot of infrastructure. So rather than doing that, we're going to wait until there's 1 week remaining, and then we're going to kick it to the bottom of the queue and then work on these iron mines. And we're going to do this repeatedly because in Krakow, we only have, we have a little bit more infrastructure now, so we can actually afford to finish this furniture manufacturing. But the idea is once you're capped out, we will just keep pushing things to the bottom repeatedly. That way we will have full market access while simultaneously being able to make use of our construction. Also important for us, at least at the beginning here, is going to be really gas streetlights. Important for anyone who is both small and doesn't really have the technology in order to give infrastructure at the start, because with this we will go from having we will go up to having 5 available infrastructure, and so I think we're going to probably use that to support an iron mine and a coal mine. We'll put the coal mine in next, and then after that we will have to juggle because we don't have anything that costs exactly 1 infrastructure, but 2 cost infrastructure, 2 cost infrastructure, 4 cost, 3 cost, and so we'll just make sure that we do not go over that. But this is going to be pretty important for keeping us going, and also we'll do market squares because it is a little bit of a better PM. One of the things that's just super nice about having a really small country is you just crush the elections in terms of getting the industrialists up and into power. We have this gentleman here, he's our new president. We'd rather be on parliamentary republic. We might at some point use this guy to abdicate down, but this is going to allow us to kind of pass some of the laws we would normally want to pass really quickly, like laissez-faire and free trade. However, you might notice something might be apparent. We're already on laissez-faire and free trade, so this is just kind of nice. Our laws, actually, in terms of starting laws, we have some of the very best, having already total separation, laissez-faire, and free trade at game start, but we're going on to appointed bureaucrats. They petitioned for it. It's going to be better for us, and so might as well. Well, we don't like that very much. Austria has replaced the president of Krakow with a new appointee. I'm pretty sure this is going to raise our liberty desire, but the fact that our liberty desire is ticking down is going to pretty much invalidate it. And instead we get Carol. Man, that's so much closer to Karen. What is that? Okay, this guy's not too bad. I mean, he's an authoritarian, and he's a political appointee, feckless, but he will be, at least he's Intelligentsia. That's something, at least for us, which is going to allow us to, kind of keep these people in power and try and pass laws like that. But that's just puppeteering, my guys. This is very exciting for us because we get a pro-country lobby targeting Prussia, which is going to give us opportunities ticking, and hopefully we get some sort of opportunity to ask them for support independence, because currently they won't do it. Currently it's at minus 115, base reluctance minus 100, ideological differences, Prussian attitude towards us is cautious. The big one is the cautious and their attitude towards Austria here, which of course is going to be antagonistic, and so we'll try and make great strides together. So we'll get a new lobby, and we are hoping that these guys will ask for or request stuff that allows us to pass stuff a little bit better. We see that the Industrialists join. Maybe they were, you know what? This is so neat. I think that the reason that this was created was because Austria meddled in our politics and got rid of an industrialist president. They're like, you know what? Let's make a lobby with the Prussians. This seems like a good decision. Now, I think that this isn't going to affect on an immediate basis our ability to do this, but hopefully we can get more opportunities to change their attitude overall as a result of having this lobby. Alright, in order to try and get the atmospheric engine event, we need to have a level 3 iron mine, so we're going to go over the infrastructure on the iron mine, and the reason being is we want this, maybe a little bit of floor planning at the start, but we want this atmospheric engine event, which will give us some progress on the railroads. I think we can get it in before we would no longer benefit from that progress, but it's going to give us like 2,500 or 3,000 progress, something like this, which is going to help us out a little bit. The only problem is can we construct this before then? I think we can. I think we get it in. Alright, we managed to find our first supporter in Great Britain, who fortunately for us, Great Britain is rivaling Austria. So, in terms of re-rolling for the most optimized start, you probably re-roll until you see as many rivalries with Austria as possible, but we will be able to request support independence, and we have just +2. Ideological similarities are a huge driver, and the fact that they are protective towards us now, and they are still antagonistic towards Austria, is going to make it so that they will support our independence. This, in turn, will give us ticking positive relations after they say yes, and so we will be able to come out of on the side of things. Now, I think that it's possible that this gives us a positive modifier in terms of here, with someone is supporting our independence. No, we don't. We see the economic independence is going down, though, here, from what it was before. Is this mathing? This doesn't look like it's mathing. I don't see a minus. But it's still 1 point. Economic independence. Okay, this is the value. The economic independence is this. But we are getting our liberty desire is only changing by minus 0.02, which means we're really not that far away from starting to gain some gains. And once we get up here, maybe we can ask for more stuff. I think we're going to take a look and see if we have any cooldowns on subject interactions. We don't. So I think that, yeah, we will be able to do this in 5 years in 41 in order to increase our liberty desire. All right, so a little bit of kind of tedious micro here, but we have 2,500 progress left remaining on railways. We're actually going to swap to water tube boiler right now, and the reason being is that we will be getting soon the event to be triggered from atmospheric engine. We just have to get the cash reserves a little bit higher, and so we don't want to waste the benefit of that event. Austria is now helping to spread tech. I wonder if this is because our liberty desire was starting to move up, but in either case, maybe that's what it was, because now it's starting to move down. So now they're knowledge sharing us as well, which is going to give us a little bit more tech speed as they try and maintain, as strong a grip on us as possible. We're going to get a little bit more research speed out of them. If we take a look here, we can see that we're getting plus 5% from knowledge sharing. So the ammo engine event, I think, didn't fire as it was supposed to. I don't know if it timed out. I don't know. I wasn't looking to see when it times out, but we do not get the atmospheric engine event. So unfortunately, we're just going to have to switch back to railroads and finish that kind of the normal way. A little bit unfortunate. I think it has to be, these have to be 75% kind of cash reserved up, and I think they are, unless I'm like misunderstanding something here. So, oh well. So we get cross-border investments for the second time. The first time we got it on Russia, which was pretty nice. I am hoping that this pushes things over the edge in terms of Prussia. Prussia's going to get a little bit of a benefit from us, and they get swapped onto Genial, and we can request them to support independence. So now we have enough military backing. So now the question is can we gain enough liberty desire in a timely fashion to make use of this backing? And we could see that our liberty desire is projected to keep minusing. The change rate of scaling, I'm not sure exactly how this works, but I'm assuming what it means is the lower we get, the higher this number gets, and so it will be hitting kind of stable equilibriums as a result of the change rate scaling. And so we're hoping we can get to the point. We need to get over plus 75 though. And so this is where I think that Krakow might be more consistent, but slower, because even though we have the backing we need, we don't have the means to, we can't actually declare anything on them other than, you know, requesting market control. Can we control our market? All right, so we hit railroads, so now we're going to put a railroad at the top of the queue, and then just a week after, we're going to finish our steel mill, or I guess 3 weeks after? And then following that, very quickly, we will finish motor industries. But I think that we will be starting to run into pop problems a little bit very close down the line. I guess we're getting decent pop growth. We're up to nearly 500,000 pops, and so this is pretty nice. We have, since the start of the game, gotten a North German cultural community, which is going to be pretty nice for us as we continue to siphon off migrants from Austria. Now, if we're not a subject of Austria and we're just in their power block, then we won't be able to siphon off because, is this bugged? It is bugged. Okay, but that's fine because they do not have a principle that's giving a market. So this is something we need to be at least a little bit careful about. Absolutely wild, but we do see the trade unions already demarginalized, which is going to be fantastic for us because they want to pass so many good laws, and so we're going to slot them into government, even though we're not using them. I guess we are using them currently to pass a law in terms of prop tax, but if we keep them in government, they'll never become demarginalized, which is very likely to be the case the second we take some territory. As long as we're really, really small and we're expanding up, we probably won't have this problem, but as soon as this is the case, as soon as we start grabbing territories, these guys might fade away, but if we keep them in gov, we can keep using them to pass laws and generate their very, very nice bonus. Manufacturing industries, throughput, and workforce ratio, both of these are very strong. Okay, so we are about to finish our railway here, and we are hitting a bit of an inflection point where I think we want to unlock our construction and start increasing it. Now, when the first construction sector you build, two things will happen. One, you're going to have to pay for the construction goods, all of the construction goods, including the 10 free construction you're getting. And so this is going to mean that the first, second, and third construction sectors on a per construction basis are effectively more expensive. But secondarily, it will open up the private queue, which has both positive and negative effects. The positive is that we could start using the investment pool once that happens, which has come up to around 1/3 The negative is that we will lose a lot of control over what gets built, which is why we didn't want to build construction sectors before the railway finished, because we absolutely need the railway to be finished. That way we get infrastructure. So we're just going to come in here, we're going to let the railway finish, and then the steel mills will finish because we want to finish them because they're almost done anyways. And then following that, we will start cranking up the loud cars outside, which is of course why we're building motor industries. And then we will start hitting a bit of an inflection point. I'm hoping we can afford this. I mean, we're only running 1K positive right here, but we are expecting the private queue to start taking over an enormous amount of the construction, given how much investment pool is. So the fact that this is only plus 1K, I think that you always want to do this value plus this value in your evaluation. We have a big investment pool to drain, and we're still on low taxes. So I think we can go for this right here and maybe go up to maybe 30 construction. So we see something that we do not like here, which is, you can see the yellow here, that is foreign ownership. That is ownership from Austria, and this is asymmetric. We can't buy their buildings, they can buy our buildings, which is going to get rid of our capitalists, which, to be fair, will empower the trade unions, relatively speaking. But this is dangerous for us because if they are owning our buildings, it is going to be harder for us to get free in terms of the liberty desire because of the leverage that they will get higher and higher amount of leverage, and so it'll be harder and harder for us to do this. And so this is maybe dangerous, and this is also what might make the run take longer, or just be straight up impossible if we can never get enough liberty to desire to ask for a higher ranking, because they just end up buying all of our stuff because of the investment pool. So this is one that we are a bit concerned about. Also, we're adding +2 here because currently we're thinking about researching corporate charters in order to unlock the tooling or a tooling company, which I think will be pretty useful, but we need at least 3 levels in the company. So I guess we don't need to do that straight away. I thought we were researching that right now, so maybe we just add 1 tooling workshop for now. Well, this is unfortunate. It looks like Great Britain might have lost, looks like they lost a war to a revolution, and so now, of course, they do not support our independence. We have been improving relations with France. I think we're going to go back, and we're going to switch to improving relations with Great Britain, but let's check their diplomacy. We do not see a rivalry on Austria, unfortunately. Rivalries with Austria include the Ottomans, and maybe we can get something going with France here, and so maybe Great Britain is a little bit less important, and maybe we want to try and improve with both the Ottomans and France in order to seek them as long-term allies for the independence war. We also see Austria putting down a steel mill here in Krakow, which again is concerning because this is going to make the Liberty Desire whole thing harder, especially because we don't have enough. Well, why are we... we're hurting on the peasant front. How do we get rid of peasants? Well, I think if they're unemployed, it might be a little bit easier to get them into jobs, but I think we have available jobs and simultaneously are having a little bit of trouble getting employment. We did just delete our university, which is painful for the purposes of qualifications, but we couldn't really we couldn't afford it, and we don't want to delete 2 construction sectors instead. We're still getting a ton of literacy, in terms of helping the qualifications from the promote social mobility. Again, the edicts are very, very strong, and so we're hoping that maybe pushing these guys out of the arable land, it looks like we'll need to build a couple levels to push them out, and I forget that grain kind of sucks hard now, so maybe we do this and this, something like that, in order to try and push them out of here and into being working on other things. But this is a concern for us, because it feels like we're just not making progress whatsoever here. I mean, we have, I guess, the economic dependence. I think this number's coming down. It's around 1. We've just been kind of stuck at this minus 0.01 for like forever, it feels like. But I know it's operating at an equilibrium. Relative prestige is helping out a little bit, so maybe we're pulling out a little bit in terms of prestige. I'm not sure. Rather than going for another company, we've decided to go for water tube boiler. One, because we have some mines, but also we actually really want water tube boiler as a PM, and we're gonna go right into rotary valve engine because running out of pops is kind of the problem. Except it's also, in some sense, it's kind of not, because we still have a lot of peasants. We're just having the employment is just a little bit sticky, and so maybe a little bit of a more varied economy will help. We do have 85% MAPI still. We are building up a food industry to hopefully make us a little bit less dependent on them in terms of buy orders, and just try and have kind of one of everything. We do see this Liberty Desire is kind of the amount from economic dependence has dropped slightly. We still have bad relations, but I think that they're improving relations with us, so that leaves us in a little bit of a weird spot where eventually we're not going to have bad relations unless they stopped improving relations. Okay, perfect. So we're going to continue to get negative relations with them. And I'm hoping that once we get above 20 with the Ottomans, or something to this effect, that maybe they are willing to support us. Right now you see it's minus 130, which is pretty close to support. And so with the Ottomans and Prussians, probably can win the war. Yeah, it's unfortunate. We really wish... See, whenever the buildings are orange, this means that we have government ownership. And the unfortunate thing about government ownership is it's actually not that effective, because we have a pretty substantive government ownership malice. You can see that we're getting a large amount of our income from government dividends. However, these are multiplied by... Our economy is getting depressed because these are multiplied by 0.25. And so it might be the case... I mean, we're getting this amount. It would be considerably larger if we were on interventionism, and the investment pool is growing by a considerably smaller amount. We might, and this feels really awkward, we might want to switch to interventionism here. And it looks like our industrialists would be super fine with that, and we'd be able to enact it really, really easy. But the reason for going interventionism is that this plus 25% government's dividend efficiency is going to be more of a free money modifier, because it will make it so that our government-owned buildings are deleting less money, and this would be better. The real problem is that the capitalists aren't acquiring buildings. We can see the very few capitalists, we've seen, like, capitalist owns one level of this. If we look at the financial districts and we see what they own 2 levels of textile mills, 1 level of paper mill, 1 level of furniture manufacturing. So maybe we have to transition back to interventionism and then back forward to laissez-faire. But even in the hyper late game, I think interventionism is probably better. The thing is we also kind of like having an extra company and the loan interest rate. But the fact that, another thing, we can we can pay to nationalize the Austrian buildings, I think, which might even give us negative relations with them and will decrease our economic dependence. So I think we're going to be making a little bit of a move on to interventionism here, given kind of the new state of affairs, the new status quo, the fact that interventionism might be, it's looking like better and better, where like now the argument, it's not a free money modifier argument in a lot of cases, I think, because I think the free money is more on the side of interventionism if you're in the situation where we are, where a lot of our ownership is not in the hands of the capitalists and instead in the hands of the state. So we see here an event that's going to be pretty shaping in terms of what's going on. We see Russia join Austria in this diplomatic play for German leadership. Prussia starts it. France isn't going to be joining anyone. But also, now Russia, now that we're on the same side, they're not going to do this because they have a good relation with Austria. That makes sense. Their attitude towards Austria is genial, so they're not going to do it. But at the very least, we get protective. So if maybe somehow it swaps back the other way, maybe we can get Russian support sometime down the line. Cautious is still the Ottoman Empire, so that's why we can't get independence. And these guys are cautious as well. France is also cautious and cordial. But if Austria or if Prussia can't find much help here, it looks like Prussia's probably going to get spanked. Luckily for them, I suppose, they don't have any conquest war goals against them. It's just Moravia and Bohemia. And this is probably why Russia joined against Prussia, is Prussia moved themselves into a new diplomatic kind of tier in terms of becoming infamous with this 87. And if they just chill and only ask for German leadership, they probably don't have Russia join against them. But this is something AI is not very nuanced about, and sometimes they put in way too many war goals and run into trouble. Okay, it's looking like we're about to enact interventionism here. And so the question is first of all, how much is this going to affect our government dividends button? We go from 1.17 to basically doubling this income. And so while we do get a little bit less in the investment pool change, because we're not getting the capitalist investment pool modifier, the fact that we're not deleting as much money from the government kind of ownership is going to be useful. But here, I'm curious, can we just buy out these guys? We cannot nationalize when there's no levels to nationalize. So we can't nationalize out from underneath Austria. We can't force purchase them. But what we can do is we can open up ownership on some of these buildings. It's unfortunate that we can't do that. We also got water tube boilers, so we're going to be using it in all the places we can. In terms of population, we do have 50,000 peasants still. Been coming up quite nicely on the pop. Part of this is the greener grass campaigns we're running, although we can't get a mass migration, if I recall the game rules correctly, unless they changed it in the recently. You cannot get a mass migration to a partial state, and we only own part of it. I think we're going to go for the coal mines because we have buy orders for coal mines, and so this will help us gain a little bit more independence from Austria, hopefully. We can see that our economic independence has gone up, or the modifier we're getting from it, which is, of course, not what we want. But we will be not, by building our own coal mines, we will no longer be buying coal from them in order to supply this stuff. And also, coal's expensive here, so it's probably going to be pretty productive anyway. This is now the third time we've got our president changed. Let's see who the new boy is. Well, I guess he's not too bad, except he is a puppet. He's a political appointee. Our government in general has been looking pretty good in terms of what groups we have. I mean, we're getting this workforce ratio in this. To be fair, we would rather these guys be over 20% clout. That way we'd get a doubled bonus. The infrastructure and the is also pretty useful. Let's double check where we're... Ooh. Ugly. No. We weren't watching this as carefully as we should have. Maybe this is why we've actually been having trouble in playing up. We were maybe not watching infrastructure so carefully, because right now we're kind of controlling everything. I think in general we have been going for the prestige here. We've gotten a lot of laws that we want, and prestige will knock us up into minor power bracket, which will give us more declared interest, but also trying to just see if we can start getting any sort of progress here. We see that this economic independence has gone down quite a bit, but we're still scaling down, unfortunately. And we have almost every type of different building. I mean, we don't have fertilizer plant, but we don't have the inputs for that anyways, and so things are a little bit rough. I don't know, I guess we rebuilt our construction sectors with the idea that we're just going to hemorrhage money for a little while, and then we started working on a railway here, so hopefully things start picking up a little bit. We also have decided to go back for canneries and mech workshops quickly, before going into rotary valve engine rather than going rotary valve engine and then backwards getting progress towards it. I think that maybe we stop off for nitroglycerin as well, but we are trying to be less mining oriented than we would normally play because we in particular are using encourage manufacturing to create here in Krakow. Yeah, this is such a struggle. I'm not sure if there's... So we opened up investment on the logging camps and the other stuff with hopes that our guys would invest in them, but then Austria just came in. So I guess Austria is gated by whether or not we approve privatization, and I guess the thing to do for this run is maybe to go interventionism just straight off the bat, which sounds absolutely insane, but I think that they've kind of got their hooks in us, at least for the time being, because we... For the economic dependence, I think the fact that they have a lot of ownership of our buildings now, they own 13% of our GDP. This is a significant factor, and it is one that is causing us a bit of discomfort. And we opened up just on these two specifically, and these ones were instantly bought up by Austrian interests. And so I think from this, we could maybe conclude that we shouldn't be allowing anyone to privatize the building. We should just be keeping them government owned, and maybe if we do that, then Austria won't be able to buy. We do see, however, this is going to be downsizing automatically on 1852, and so while in theory or generally speaking we don't like stuff downsizing, in here if it downsizes an Austrian level, we'd actually be delighted by that. And I don't think it can downsize a government-owned level, which is all we have, and so I think we are in pretty good shape for that regard. And so we are also finishing dedicated police here, which is going to be a nice law pass, nothing too crazy. Did we just gain a level of a manor house? Doesn't look like we had any purchase go on, so I'm curious where that level came from. So I think this may be recoverable, but also it just seems like no matter what we're doing, this is like moving around, but it's not in the aggregate budging. It's staying around this -1 and this equilibrium at 0. But we have a little bit of a plan to maybe decrease our dependence or the proportion of their economy we own, which is very, very inefficient. But if we build a bunch of more buildings that are going to downsize, we can flood... by building another steel mill when it's about to downsize, we're hoping to just keep flooding the market and dilute out effectively all the Austrian shares, because only the private buildings can downsize, the government ones can't. We own the government buildings, they own the private buildings, and so this might be a bit of an interesting play pattern that we can use to get stuff to revert back to our hands. And interestingly, even if these buildings are wildly profitable, they can still lack employment when we are out of labor, and so this is an interesting one. So I guess we're just going to keep building. We're going to run out of peasants, but some of these buildings will downsize, and as they downsize, if we just keep overbuilding them, we are hoping that they will downsize, or they will downsize the Austrian ones, and in this way we can reclaim a proportion of the ownership. We haven't seen the private queue, even though the private queue is unlocked, we haven't seen it build anything once since we've been on laissez-faire. I suppose even if we pause government construction, they just like don't build anything. They just don't do anything, which is a little bit annoying, but there's not much to be done about it. So that's kind of where we're at. And we can foster Polish radicals abroad. Definitely want to be doing this. I think it's worth... Well, the event I think is actually pretty weak, but we're just going to do it. And we're going to... Ooh. Alright. First of all, we'll deal with this guy. This guy, I think, is a protectionist. Yeah, let's have him settled domestically. But now, Danzig's an interesting one. Where exactly is Danzig located? Isn't there... I'm not sure. Let's instruct them to go after Danzig, because I think that... Oh, if we can get Danzig, if Danzig somehow joins us, that would be insane. But I don't think... I think we have to be independent. I'm not sure. But I guess we'll go for it. If we somehow got the coastal access, that would be absolutely wild for us, especially if we could get market independence. And also, I think that if we were having part of our country be over here, this might cause long-term problems for Austria, because that would repeatedly rev, because they would have no access, or I guess they would have access to the Austrian market. Great Britain's having a bit of a time, unfortunately. It's unfortunate because we're improving relations with them, and they had gotten the beep boops outside. They had rivaled Austria, and so we were hoping that as soon as this attitude changed, we can ask for their support, but it looks like that won't be a thing now. Alright, we're going to make a little bit of a pivot here in terms of technology. We have rotary valve, we have all the base research kind of already finished, or just a little bit over. It's 12,500 in terms of base cost. Ahead of time is giving us this malice. We're just going to let the other stuff not spread to us, and then we'll get rotary valve then. But we're going to shift gears, and I think what we're going to do is we're going to go... I was going to say we're going to go socialist, but... Well, actually, I do think it's just better. Like, currently, the problem is like, our capitalists are just not picking up at all, and we are so small and so lean that we actually have a really strong trade unionist at this point in time, so we could go socialism really easy. The problem is we're concerned that it might make people hate our guts, but the ownership, where the government ownership's just bad, and it's hurting us quite a lot, because half of this is just getting deleted from our economy, because our current government dividends here is at, our government dividend efficiency is 50%. And so all these buildings that are nationally owned, we pocket half the money, and then the other half just gets erased from the economy. And so while we have a decent looking budget, we have a GDP much smaller than what we'd want, and we kind of would rather it be the other way around. We want to build a bunch of buildings and just like pop off, that way we can get free from Austria. Also, this is still, we're still struggle busting on this one, and we're like 20 years in the game, and we haven't made any meaningful progress. And to be fair, some of it might be because we misplayed the opening here in allowing them to buy ownership of the iron mines, the logging camps. They built the steel mills themselves, so there's nothing we could have done about that, because you always have the ability to build in your subject's territory. I think we might have let them buy some of the tooling workshops, but in any case, like, our non-government ownership is really, really butt right now. We kind of are a little bit tempted to open this up to privatization, except for the problem is Austria will buy it rather than our own capitalists. And so our own capitalists are sitting on their thumbs, and they only have ownership in, I think there's still 4. Yeah, there's only 4 financial districts, and there's been 4 for like the longest time. And so it might be that you have to like, even just like uber rush, like if you don't already have like your capitalists kind of going. And maybe this is the reason to go laissez-faire, because they would get more investment pool, and maybe once they get over 1 million, then they start building buildings and buying buildings a little bit more. But the fact that we're starting so small and so lean, I think that maybe socialism is going to be good. Now, this corporate charters is actually effectively not, the first one's effectively not going to give us a company, because we still have the company that we slotted in from laissez-faire, so it's not going to give us one. But we're thinking that we maybe beeline socialism. If we research it first, we'll get Karl Marx. But even if we don't research it first, we should be able to aggressively roll kind of for what we want, I think, especially with the trade unionists already powerful. Actually, with the trade unionists already powerful and in government, we could just pass Council Republic. The only problem from, I think, that kind of comes into mind is this going to cause like long-term problems? We could also probably go guaranteed liberties here, but start a little bit of a movement, which will help us out. But yeah, this is so far actually seeming, maybe it's more consistent than 1.6, but this does seem pretty rough. We've also told these guys to shove it a couple times now, and so how bad would this be for us? I mean, we're gonna lose this bonus. That bonus is less important. A little bit unfortunate, though. One thing I should have probably said earlier is, while it's not super important to run a lot of trade routes, because you're inside Austria's market and Austria is going to do a bunch of trade route stuff, you can gain some value from doing it, and also the trade route ownership will be capitalist, if I'm not mistaken. Unless they changed it, it is capitalist owned, so maybe we should have been trying to push the trade a whole lot more to empower the capitalists here. But the thing we were going to say is that it does give, yeah, maybe we should have been doing this. We can push up the price of tools. We kind of want this thing to downsize, but we also kind of want to invest into it. But the big thing here being that we will get this... Oh, do we not get... Where's our migration bonus? Is that gone now? I thought we would get the migration bonus. Is that just gone on vanilla? maybe there's a certain condition that we do not fill. But I was expecting to get the migration bonus. That's why we made one trade route kind of at the very beginning, and we never really talked about it. But I guess we don't get a migration bonus, and that migration bonus is instead hidden behind principles, which is, fair enough. Let's go trade route competitiveness here. But I guess we're going to start specializing tools pretty soon here. And after we get a couple companies, I think we're going to do tools only. But the real thing that sucks is that so much of our ownership is like, it's not ours, it's Austrian. Okay, so I just discovered something here which is kind of a little bit of a brick, and it won't be a brick on the live version, or at least according to a Reddit Q&A. On the version I have, this is not necessarily the version that goes live, and I believe they said that for the economic dependence, this was going to be not just pop needs, but overall buy and sell orders. But here it's just pop needs, and it's just referring to clothes, furniture, luxury furniture, and groceries, and unfulfilled needs being supplied by us. And you can see here, we have our pops getting supplied this in terms of their needs. And so we're actually going to shift gears, and we're going to try and be more oriented towards the consumer goods here. And so we're going to really turn up on the clothes, because we have kind of all the PMs for clothes, and maybe not focus as much on the tools, and try and make it so that we are over providing clothes so that we can try and get some sort of score going from this. But overall, this seems like really sticky. And to be fair, it's not like Krakow should be able to break free easily, but we're currently 24 years into the game, a little bit of a quarter ski, and it doesn't look like we have too much that we can do quite yet. I think I think we have in the queue one of these. We're just gonna cancel that. That's fine. And so I guess we could put it at the back. It is pretty profitable, but we're currently, it seems like a little bit of a struggle here, trying to break free here as Krakow. I was really hoping that the new subject interactions, specifically support independence, would give a lot of help. But the fact that we are gated by this is a thing that is we're having significant difficulties with. Again, this is the economics dependence is just shaking all about in terms of the number, but it's never enough for us to gain any sort of traction. And them owning a percentage or a GDP is a little bit of a problem. So if we were to rerun this, the strategy is probably to that company's not going to, or it lets us swap the companies, but the strategy is probably to go interventionism as quickly as possible and try and give investment rights to another nation so that they can buy your stuff, instead of Austria being able to buy your stuff. So give Austria a competitor, I have to imagine would be the strategy. But I think we're going to disband this, and we're going to instead slot in the Home Goods Consortium. I think this is going to be better than sliding in this one. Minus radicals from standard living decreases, because this is going to hit two companies. I guess we are doing a little bit more in terms of the other one. Like, we're building more of this, but now we'll try and over-provide the orders to the market for Austria here. And so we will try and get, where did the modifier go? Is it just a wash now? Is it not showing the tooltip because it is a wash? Okay, so that's good. We were a little bit dependent on them. Now it seems like it's break even, so it's not showing the modifier. And so we'll keep this up and see if we can get any sort of traction here, but it's not looking so good. So experimented and took a little bit of a risk popping a revolution. The reason why this is a risk is because now Austria is allowed to join the other side of a revolution, and so it's potentially the case that they decide they want to side with the Rev and against us, at which point we would have to swap sides if we wanted to continue playing. Also, we are going to be building up the food industries here. Hopefully they don't do too many crazy things with the Rev. It looks like this Rev still owns Austrian buildings, but these Austrian buildings will be unprofitable. We're hoping to see at least one downsize, but we'll see what happens. The problem is that they're able to leverage our pops and gain a huge portion of the benefit. And so our population is currently just getting leveraged a ton by the Austrians as a result of them controlling our country. We're looking to put in no migration controls right here, and that's how we proc the Rev. But I guess you really just have to go on to interventionism immediately. But even if you did do that, I still don't think we've been moving in the direction of them having proportionally a smaller and smaller amount of like economic I think they were at 20% of our GDP, and now they're down at 8%, and it's still not moving the needle right here. So it might be the case that Krakow is even harder on 1.7, which we're really hoping to make use of some of the new interactions, and so to see Krakow appearing to be harder is a little bit rough. We of course will reset a bunch of PMs. They probably deleted our one university, but that's probably okay because we're kind of hemorrhaging money, and I think that we can slot in. We were hoping to slot in the food company because, one, we have to focus on consumer products, but this isn't done yet. We have to focus on consumer products, but also the pop growth would maybe be something we're interested in. Currently, we're getting about 10K. A lot of it is just from natural growth. We should be getting migration coming in again here soon, but really struggling to get things off the ground now, like 30 years into the game. Looks like the Rev might have gotten rid of some of Austria's ownership. Not entirely sure. We also do see our private queue actually starting to pick some stuff up. But it looks like there's not as many buildings in here post-Rev. If we come in here and we look at the modifiers, we're getting very little from them owning our GDP. Just they only own 4% of our GDP. This is still giving a modifier. This unfulfilled one is a little bit annoying, though, because there's not a whole lot we could do about it. We can't... I mean, I guess we can add more grain. We can't add fish. We can add porcelain. We can't add wood anymore. We can't really add fruit. I guess we could add a little bit of fruit coming in from this stuff, but it's not gonna. I don't think we move the needle here. Like, just kind of taking a look at it. And so maybe let's get to the point where we are slotting in this food industry. We need, I think, one or two more, but I think that this run is just way harder now on 1.7 is kind of my evaluation, because even though you're going to have access to this really powerful ask for independence thing, the fact that you can't expand on your own as Krakow at all, and you can't ever try and deck for independence. There's no condition that you can deck for independence unless you get a high enough liberty desire, and this has just been quashed down. To be fair, this is like way smaller. Maybe we're just about to break through, but yeah, I don't know. This mechanic it makes it really, really hard for you to even ask for or try and get anything to do with independence, and the request market control requires that we have at least 25, and so there's not a whole lot we can do here, it feels. And this is not even including, they have more interactions that can give us minus 0.2, and they've been doing it when we have a lot, like they can give us more legitimacy or more research speed, and so the fact that they even have more tools in their back pocket to decrease our liberty desire, it's really not looking so good. Okay, maybe there is a little bit of hope here. We used the Christ of Nations tick to foster radicals abroad, and instead of going for Danzig again, we went from Austria. This also gave us minus 30 relations, which decayed us down into cold relations, which is impossible for us to maintain just with damaged relations. And so now, that's giving plus 0.5, and so we are starting to have a positive weekly basis here of 0.06. And so this is maybe something a little bit rough. Also, it's funny, it shows our power rank instead of theirs, but that's just like a UI bug. Alright, it's Marxian time, baby. Now, this might hurt our ability to get people to support us, but I think that economically this will help out. So we do get the Dear Agitator Marx, Mr. Carl himself, and let's see what he agitates for. I wonder what he might want to agitate for. Mr. Marx, please. Please, Mr. Marx. Alright, well, we're waiting for him to agitate, because we could pass Council Republic right now pretty easily. And to be fair, some of the reason why we can pass it kind of easily is that we have the power block creative legislature, which gives us minus stall chance, increased preserve, restore, or decreased preserve law, restore law, as a result of ideological union that we have from Austria. And so this is giving us some kinds of benefits, but what we need is for... I think that we want to wait and try and see if Mr. Marx spawns a... He should be spawning an agitate. He says he's going to agitate for Council Republic, but maybe this system is actually, or this power block is actually blocking us a little bit. We want him to start agitating before we start passing, though, is the idea. Unfortunately, we get this event for Karl Marx getting exiled just as soon as we get him because we don't have, I guess we don't have enough radicals, enough stuff to get going. But I think we can still just promote him to government. So we'll just grant him leadership, and then we'll see if this is departed friends permanently, +5. And does it still send him out? It does. Okay, well, we roll a social democrat, which is going to be something, I guess. I think that we could still use this guy to pass Council Republic, and so I think we'll just pass Council Republic now. Big sad on not getting Marx, though. Can we just invite him back? Can we just say, yo, dog, we didn't mean it. We're all about you. No. Karl Marx is dead. He's not even out there. Well, that was short-lived. So much for the revolution. Yeah, we probably just should not have slotted in this food company. Like, really, it's going to be very hard for us to ever get the productivity bonus, because the way productivity is calculated is kind of terrible. It's calculated based against every other industry, not just the other food industries. And so you have to compare relative to that, and the food industry in general is not very pop efficient, and what productivity tracks is pop efficiency, so by its very nature, it's really hard to get the productivity bonus. We should have just gone for maybe even the steel for the construction speed. Things are looking up, though, in regards to this, because we almost have enough liberty desire, and we are getting an increasing amount as we become less economically dependent. So it does seem that we are actually starting to get out from under them in terms of economic dependence, because they don't own very much of our GDP anymore, and this unfulfilled goods is like kind of less of a modifier. The difference has just always been +1, but this actually, you know what's the really big one is the fact that we have cold relations, and so using this Christ of Nations to hurt our relations with Austria really seems like overall the way to go. And just as soon as we can ask for control over our market, I think we will, because by doing this, it's going to give us more negative relations, if I recall correctly. And so we're just on the cusp of it right now, so we do want to see what it gets to when we get to it. Come on. Alright, well, we'll be back when we got it. Alright, we're going to request market control. They're going to say no, but this is really very much the point. We want them... Actually, if this is an equilibrium tick, maybe... You know what has gone away is the other modifier where... Where did that other modifier go? Maybe that's what's going on. The modifier that was just pulling us down and seemed to move pretty tightly with this economic dependence modifier. Let's just ask for control of the market right now. And this is going to give us negative everything. They're really upset with us. They don't like us very much. Good. And then we'll check and see if we can get anyone to support us. It doesn't look like we can get anyone to support us except for Prussia here. And a real big problem is that, if we can take on Prussia's debt, something has gone horribly wrong. But one of the things... This is maybe not... I don't think Prussia's very strong here, is one problem here. And I think that these guys are unaligned. Oh, they had a rev. Is that what happened? The rev just killed their power block? That's a yikes. And I think that Russia has been allied. They have a defensive pact with Austria. So we need more than just Prussia, unfortunately. And these guys haven't been cooperative. Even though there is a rivalry between the things, they just... and even with us as protective, you're really not liking it? The ideological differences of a government. No, this is why we can't go communism. Yeah, this probably actually is the reason to not go communism. We haven't even hit it yet, but we could take a look at their government. But this is like overall. Now that we're starting to get somewhere, we're starting to have the secondary thing, which is what do we do once we have enough liberty desire to go for an independence play, and we don't have like the UK and Prussia together, which is what we need to fight Russia and Austria, I think. I think we're going to conclude the episode here, really in a bit of a weird spot. We're going to at least play one more episode, because I was thinking we might have to scrap it, because I wasn't thinking we could get the Liberty Desire up, but then all of a sudden, this other modifier that was a significant impediment disappeared as soon as we got cold relations. So I guess we have to use, I guess the strategy is to use the Christ of Nations event, and maybe actually just force yourself to rev, because that got rid of a lot of the Austrian buildings here, which was a little bit interesting, but also going interventionism early is probably the way to go, because by staking interventionism, we are not compelled to toggle privatization, and so the Austrians don't own our buildings right now, which I think is going to be, I think this is kind of how we were able to get to the point where we did not have so much dependence on them as well, although maybe the cold relations is just the most important thing, or the more important thing, because I don't think this 3% was, I don't think that when this was like +1 or whatever, or plus 0.6, it wasn't translating into a really high score here on the economic dependence for the purposes of changing liberty desire, but now we're cranking up liberty desire, so we'll see where this goes. Overall, this has been, at the very least, a lot slower, I think, than kind of a normal Krakow start, but maybe you can very consistently get independence now. We just need a correct spot. We need Prussia to stop shitting the bed, and we just need a spot where we have 2 GPs help. Hopefully, we don't need to go for mass conscription or something like that. In terms of how things are looking here in terms of pops, we have been cranking up at a decent clip. We are getting a lot of pop growth. We're not getting any weekly migration anymore. I'm not entirely sure why. Because we have a ton of unemployment. That actually explains it. But we have really high SOL. Man, why do we have unemployment? Is it because we have a ton of government ownership, I bet. I think it's because we have a ton of government ownership and we have this much government dividends. There's 50% government dividend efficiency. That means 8K money is just getting deleted from our economy rather than getting like reinvested in consumption. So you see stuff like this is at equilibrium employment. And we're trying to export this stuff too. Man, it's just if you can't get capitalists up and going, like you just have a hot mess because the government ownership is really terrible. And this seems to be a problem for smaller countries. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, do the YouTube algorithm thing, and have a good day.